Hi there. My name is Ginger Voigt, and I am the author of almost 40 published works. I am a screenwriter, a poet, and a word witch. Here on this channel, we talk about story, we talk about the craft, and we talk about all things relating to the magic of creation. I invite you to come on in and sit a spell. Welcome back. Today, I wanted to talk a little bit about inspiration and that spark of an idea that ends up as a completed work and the process of how to get there. Whether you are writing a 100,000 page novel, a 100-page screenplay, a 10-line poem, or song, there's something that gets you from your original idea that sparks your inner curiosity to explore and the published work or the finished work. So, how do you get there? Well, I'm here to offer some insight and tips and tricks and my own personal experience. And in doing so, I'm going to tell you how I, mild mannered rock girly from the Gen X generation, turned into a Swiftie. So we've talked a little bit about what inspires me, and we've talked about the music and that sort of thing. So basically, what will happen is something will pique my interest, and then I will start asking questions. And invariably, that's going to be how it's going to be. Recently, my bestie sent me a picture the other day, and we now have worked through pretty much a blueprint to get started on an outline for a story. And I'm pretty excited about it. Can't wait to share it with you. I'm not going to share it with you now. That's top secret for now, but I will tell you how this happened in my latest book. And in order to do that, we need to get some backstory. And this has everything to do with my daughter in law, Brittany, and her dogged, tenacious, pit bull approach to turning me into a Swiftie like her. And I did not go willingly. Like I said, I am a rock girly, and I didn't really identify with a lot of Taylor's pop stuff or her country stuff. I did like some songs. One was called Mean, because I had someone who was kind of an authority over me, who told me once that I was a joke and always would be. And she spent our entire relationship tearing me down to make me feel bad about myself. So it was just a really mean person. So that song really spoke to me. And then Look What You Made Me Do came out around the time that I was dealing with the fallout from a frenemy and some old drama, that we were cleaning out with an old frenemy. The line, You locked me out and threw a feast, was very pivotal in my life and hits really hard even to this day. I can listen to Look What You Made Me Do and Walk by Pantera back to back, and it tells the entire story. So there you go. Um, I liked like Out of the Woods was really good because I really like those atmospheric songs that I can get lost in, and they can help me, my inner storyteller kind of run wild with, ideas and filling in the blanks of what the story, in a song, gives you a lot of room to do that. And so those were kind of the ones that I really gravitated to and enjoyed. But for Britt, however, it was an entirely different experience because she's a few years younger than Taylor. So from Teardrops on My Guitar on, she was telling her story and giving her a voice to her feelings as a young girl and growing up into her own accomplished woman, even into the lover era, which is around the time that my son Jer and Britt got married. It was something that she really felt a kinship and a bond with this particular creator, because she felt like this is something that how I feel. And that connection is kind of the reason that a lot of us do what we do, because it is a very spiritual um, that we have. If I tell my story and you hear my story and you feel it, that you and I have connected at that point. And that is something that is really amazing in how these performers, grace our lives. And for her, she was an idol. She looked up to her, listened to all her music and buy all her albums, wanted to go to her concerts, but never did. And that is kind of where this story kind of takes a different. This is where everything into gear. Because if you've been with a Swiftie and you've been Swiftie adjacent, you know that you get the education, you get the songs whenever you're in the car. They have the playlist going. You're going to hear the music, and you're going to hear about, even if you don't want to, sometimes you'll hear about their personal lives and everything like that. And I even say that because she did that, but it was Brit that was doing that. It was just the media was doing that. So even if you don't want to know those details, you're going to know those details because that's what sells magazines. So that was kind of how this whole thing took root. And it happened around particularly the Eras Tour. When the Eras Tour came out, it probably this landmark event in Taylor Swift's career, and these wanted to be a part of it, including Brittany. Now, Brittany was pregnant at the time that the tickets went on sale, so she knew she wouldn't be able to buy them for herself. She wasn't going to sacrifice her family's financial well being for a concert which was responsible. But Mama Bear didn't have that concern. Mama Bear was able to say that this was something that she wanted to make happen because I already knew from losing an idol before I was ready. Because if you look at Prince, for instance, and Prince and Taylor have a lot in common. They started very young, they were both instrumentalists who craft their music. And I think that Prince, especially after the Taft Cap era, would have been very proud of Taylor to get around the having her master sold by re-recording them and then being able to buy them back. I think he would have been really impressed with that. I know I am. So we have this Swiftie in our house who broke my heart. Like, I'm not going to be able to go. And after losing Prince and not being able to go to his last concert, and then he died, and that was it, there's no more live concerts with Prince. I really wanted to make that happen for her. It meant a lot to me to do that for her. So I conferred with a friend of mine who goes to see a lot of live music, and she was some ideas of how to make this happen and get this opportunity to get into the pre-sale, which I was able to do. Miracle of miracles, I was able to get in and get into the pre-sale event for the Las Vegas shows. And Las Vegas is a drivable distance away. I did Las Vegas, Scottsdale, and LA. In LA, forget about it. But I was able to get into the Las Vegas pre-sale. And I remember being a part of the Great War and being so stressed out, even though I'm go to the concert with Brittany because, like I said, I liked a few of her songs, and that's my criteria. I have to like at least 3 songs to go to a concert. And I did. And I was like, okay, I can go with her and I'll enjoy it and it'll be fine. And my son, who's not a concert guy, he had to stay home with the baby because she would have had the baby by then. So that was the plan. And I was, getting ready to do it. But it wasn't that it was not like this was, oh, my idol that I'm going to see. It's not like this was my Prince, ticket. But I was stressed, and it was a lot because I think the 10 a.m. sale messed up and you had to go to, and I'm thinking the whole time that I'm not going to be able to her. And she doesn't even know. Like, I didn't even tell her. This was a complete and total surprise. I wasn't going to tell her just in case I couldn't do it. And I didn't want to break her heart twice because, raise false hope. But I wanted to be able to surprise her with it if I could. And it was kind of going to work as a, Christmas, birthday, Christmas, birthday, Christmas, birthday kind of gift for, years because it's a big deal. And so I was able to snag the tickets. I got the nosebleeds, but I got them at uh face value. I was able to get nosebleed tickets. I wanted to get something a little bit better, but my bank was like, no, you don't. And so I was able to get her the into the concert at the very least. They had obscured viewing, but it didn't matter. She was going. And when I go home to tell her after talking with her all day about, oh, I'm glad I wasn't in that because they were getting shut out tickets, and oh my God, I would have been so depressed. And knowing that she had just made peace and she was being so responsible, and I was so proud of her, but I wanted to spoil her. So I went in, I gave her the tickets, and she was so committed to this idea she wasn't going that she didn't know how to react. She was just like, um okay. I mean, we have video of her response, which I was expecting her to lose her ever loving mind, but didn't work out that way. And it's totally fine because after she made peace with the fact that she was going, it was all Taylor all the time. And that kind of feeds into the next part of the story. But what had happened was she again, every time we got in the car, anytime we were, she was all about it, what we were going to wear. This is what I wore. It was like one of those things where it was such driving force. It was her baby, Taylor. That was how it worked out. That's the priority level. And so we ended up going, we drove to Las Vegas, and from my area, it's about 4 hours. And of course, I'll Taylor all the time. So I got to listen to her complete discography and her songs. And because I love being on the open road and listening to music, because the inner storyteller in me just goes a little wild with that idea, I was able to really kind of immerse myself in her music. So I really got my education for Taylor on that drive. And as I'm listening to her, first thing I notice is that she is an amazing lyricist. Like her writing, and to me, as a writer, if you can impress me with your writing, instantly vaults you into my, upper echelon. I really appreciate, I know how hard it is. I know how hard it is to come up with that magic, turn of a phrase that you look back on and go, damn, I did that. And she does that regularly. So chef's kiss to some of her lyrics. They're so good. And then there's the story. Like she is the ultimate word witch. Every single one of her songs or spells to tell you these stories. And they have atmosphere and soundtracks, and they have characters that she's playing in, blank space. She's satirizing her own reputation. And it's so genius, and that she was able to do that, and I was so impressed. So by the time I get to the concert, I have a newfound appreciation. And the concert itself, not only, okay, that she was able to do the concert and the logistics of that and the creation of that and just that next level of storytelling that she was able to do, that was going to invite us as the audience into her world and be a part of that story, is insane. Like it was amazing. And then the endurance that she had to do, the way that she pulled that off, and as one person drawing so much, her charisma is such that if you put her on that stage, she's the one you're looking at. Even with all the dancers, as good as they are, and Jan is hot, you can still, you're looking at Taylor. And not only that, not only, if that wasn't enough, if all of that wasn't enough, okay, and it is, the people that she was able to inspire. I can't even tell you that the mosaic of fans that show up to those concerts, they were every age, every gender, every race. They were friends, they were family, they were lovers, they were all kinds of different walks of life. And yet she said something to them that connected them to her. And it's beautiful and amazing. And they connected us with each other. Like when we left our hotel to walk over to Allegiant, we're running into people who recognize us because, we're extra because we're for Taylor. Come over. They were, trading the bracelets. They were having that long live song, the song long live, having those moments. To this day, if I hear that song, I'll cry, because it's so amazing that they're able to have that connection. See, I'm crying now. So I was so impressed by all of it, that I kind of got mad at the fact that people reduce her so much. And it's a human nature. It's kind of gross, but people want to tear down people who are successful for some reason. And the easiest way to do that with a woman is to minimize her and minimize what she's doing. Now, you cannot like her music. That's totally fine. You don't have to have a taste for her music. Completely fine. That's valid. Okay. Different folks, different strokes for different folks, whatever. But you cannot minimize what she's been able to achieve at all. It's impressive for any human being to do. But because she's a woman, it gets minimized and shadowed by, oh, she's throwing shade at this girl in this song. And oh, she's talking about this guy. And oh, she's doing this or that. And it's like, shut up. She's incredible. You need to pay attention to what she's done. And they don't. And that's why The Man hits so hard, that song, The Man. Because if she had been a man, we would have different conversations. That is where the question came in. So I'm thinking about that and I'm thinking about how unfair that is. And I'm kind of mad about it. And then thinking about all the men who get away with that sort of thing and they can have all the lovers that they want and have all the social, they can be a confirmed bachelor until their 40s and then before they even settle down. And nobody thinks twice. Nobody says shit. That doesn't overshadow what they're able to do as far as accomplishing what the work is that they do. And it made me wonder, and the question that popped up was if a Taylor Swift like character had a relationship with a, say, George Clooney like character, both of who have these reputations, those battling reputations would then be the antagonist of the love story. And that got me really excited. So I wanted to explore that. So we start with the question, what would happen? Then I have a plot. So what would happen? Does this question warrant further, like the investigation of that question, does that provide enough meat on the bone to make it into a plot? Will this be something that has a solid beginning, a crucial middle, and a satisfying end? Will that stand up to the scrutiny? And if it does, let's pursue it. So we've got question, plot. Now we need the characters. Can't write about Taylor. Morally, ethically, would never think to write anyone else's story without their consent, first of all. But we can play around in the sand with this because we've seen this happen so many times before. So we can pull in the dynamics of other female stars. We can go back, we can do Hart and Joan Jett and, Blondie, and we can do all those people known by one name with Aretha and Whitney and, Cher and Madonna and, you know, Pink. All of these people we can pull from that fertile ground to develop a character who is her own character. She's not Taylor, she's not any one of those people, but she's kind of they were mothers to her and she could be created from that. Then I have my guy. Who's he going to be? Well, he's got to be grounded and he's got to be decent because that is the thing. If they're going to have a relationship, he can't be one of those guys who's going to, make her cry and hurt her and make those horrible love songs or horrible breakup songs rather. So he can't be that guy. Jake Gyllenhaal. She can't be that guy. So he's got to be someone who's solid. So once we have those characters and we fill in the world, who is going to fill in their world? Who's going to populate their world? Well, she's got dancers, she's got friends, she's got family. All of those characters then start to pepper in. So now we've got question, plot, character. Now we need the environment to put them in. Where are they going to be from? Where are they going to tell the story? Well, for her, it's a worldwide stage because she's a pop star. But where she lives, she obviously would live somewhere LA-ish, New York-ish, something that's an epicenter of entertainment. He would be in those areas because he's an actor. But I wanted them to come from roots, like solid rural roots. So she's from Texas because I know that's a fun place for me to play. And he's from Kentucky, George Clooney. But I really thought that just having that, if he were from like a more metropolitan area, he would be a little bit more sophisticated outside of what her comes from, her grounding as a human. So I really kind of made that happen. So now we have question, plot, characters, environment. Now, what are we going to do? Well, we need the theme. So, the theme that I really settled on was the fact that she's a woman who's uber accomplished, but not getting the props for it because it's so overshadowed by her reputation. So, I wanted to make it to where Channing, that's my girl, Channing Grace, was very committed at this point. She's like, screw off romance. I don't care. I want to be accomplished. I want to be so accomplished that they can't argue it. You know what I mean? Steve Martin has a quote is be so good they can't ignore you. So I wanted her to just run into that. I'm going to be so effing accomplished that nobody can say crap about me anymore. So I leaned into the EGOT. She wanted an EGOT. So in the plot, she was going to win an Oscar due to a past relationship with one of the asshole guys, and and she managed to turn that heartbreak into an award because that's her badassery, right? So she's now got Grammy, she's got an Oscar, so that leaves the Tony in the image. She's gonna focus on that in this book. She's gonna be doing this. And it arose out of the outline that I wrote. Did not see in a very Inception type of way, is that he ends up with Theo because he's older. He's been around with the paparazzi. He knows how to get around him. So on Oscar night, he scares her from their scrutiny, gets her to his house, and just kind of lets her have a place of refuge. They may or may not have used a getaway car. So they have that uh, connection to his house, and she goes to stay in his guest room. And as she's in this guest room of this big opulent mansion that is from glamorous old school Hollywood kind of era, she has a thought about all the girls who looked in that bathroom mirror and where they came from and what they were doing. And of course, she ends up story come to her that she wants to pursue, and it changes everything. It changes the whole damn course of the book because now she's like, I'm really committed to this story. I want to change my tour. I want to change my album. And she is actually get a Broadway experience out of it. And it was just so exciting for me because this was new ground for me and I didn't see it coming. And I was just the ride and picking up picking up whatever Channing was laying down because she was leading the way. So now we have the question, plot, character, environment, theme. Now all we need is the beating heart. Well, the beating heart in a romance should be the couple. But in my books, there always is something outside of the couple that's going to lean in. So for this one, it was a girl named Maisie who did not see her coming. She just burst out of the story like, I'm here and you're going to tell my story too. And I did. And I will say it may or may not have been inspired by Ronan or, that level of you know, heartbreak. But I put her in there because she needed to change these two obstinate people who are seeing life through the blinders. They see things through their own perspective and what they need to do to survive because they have these reputations that are and they're not going to be able to live their truth because people want to keep coloring in their lines. So I have all of the ingredients kind of pull this together and it worked out. So now my last book is called Infamous and it is Channing and Theo's story and Maisie's, and it is available on Amazon and it is available outside of Amazon. I made this available wide. And it is also available in audiobook because I am trying to lean into the accessibility of the audiobook. I know I enjoy having audiobooks I can throw down on the commutes back and forth to my day job. So I really want to make sure that I have made it as accessible as possible. And Amazon allows you to do that now through their AI, which is okay, but it's not the way I hear it in my head. So I'm trying to play with other things. So I have another option outside of Amazon that is in my voice and a little bit more in the way I hear it when I'm hearing the story in my head. So pick your poison if you want to check it out. And I'll leave the cute meet at the end, or the meet cute at the end, and you'll be able to see how these two characters meet and the spark that starts the whole thing, and I hope you really enjoy it. So if you have a favorite Taylor lyric, feel free to leave it in the comments. I'd love to see it. Mine is um you kept me like a secret and I kept you like an oath because I lived that as a fat girl in my younger years as a teenager and having the cute popular guys date really pretty girls on their arm for their reputation, and I was the dirty secret they wanted to keep on the side. So I felt that my favorite song from Life of a Showgirl is going to be Ruin a Friendship because it's a story. It's a sad story with an upbeat music, a soundtrack. So but I like it. I love it. And I cry harder every time I hear it because it's so good. So leave a comment. Let me know, like, subscribe, do all those things, the YouTubey things. And if you're a writer, go write. Let that spark carry you. Let it take you through those steps. Find that story that is just going to drive you to where you can get where you need to go. And if you're a reader, go read. Read something new. Read something exciting, something outside of what you would normally read. Give it a try like I gave Taylor a try. And then if you're a YouTuber, enjoy the next video that pops up on your shuffle. Thank you for spending time with me today. I'll see you next time.
I danced my way to the floor along with my group, who likewise couldn't wait to shake a tail feather to the thumping, sensual beat. Despite the celebrity names on the party's guest list, I couldn't help but notice heads still turned my way. The more famous they were, the giddier I got about it. This wasn't a birthday party. This was a hallucination brought upon by expensive bubbly. And I got a bird's-eye view of it all. At nearly 6 feet tall, I towered above my friends. I could get the best angle, particularly because my impressive height was only made taller with the 4-inch heels I teetered upon. My trademark platinum blonde hair was broken with a strip of true violet that tumbled down my face over one stark blue eye that was rimmed by smoky black makeup with a touch of glitter. Because what in life wasn't improved by a little sparkle? That was why my pout shared the same color as the strip in my hair, with a glitter lipstick that made it even more sensual and inviting to the interested parties dancing nearby, both men and women alike. My tank top sparkled as much as my lipstick, with holographic fringe that bounced when I moved. My leather miniskirt stopped just below the curve of my hips, revealing the promise of these famously long legs I could show off in crystal-studded stiletto boots. I was a human disco ball under the flashing lights, one that shamelessly courted attention. Most of the time that was what I wanted. From the time I sang Silent Night in the Christmas pageant when I was 4, the stage was my domain, one I ruled with confidence and sparkle. But the bright shining light had the tendency to chase everyone else away, like wildfire, 0% contained. The brighter I shined, the further they ran, be they family, friend, or lover. It only made me feel lonelier, even in the crush of a crowd. I filled the loneliness with liquid glitter or champagne, my bubbly beverage of choice, because it managed to both lift me up and numb me down. I emptied my glass and tried to give myself over to the moment. That was when I noticed him, staring at me from across the room where he danced with a partner so closely it was like they were glued to each other. His eyes, however, were fixed on my face, and I couldn't help but suck in a breath when I realized who he was. It only took 0.52 seconds to recognize those dark brown eyes, that salt and pepper hair, and the dimple in his chin like he was created from a long-forgotten mold of Hollywood's leading men. Theo Shepard was an A-list actor with a litany of roles under his belt, and a few awards to boot. I had literally been watching his movies and TV shows my whole life, so I was quite familiar with that most delicious smirk that would wrinkle one of those deep, dark eyes with the kind of come-hither look that shot electricity right to my core. Because he was smiling at me. I knew that look, having seen it many times before. Older men loved me from the first time I stepped onto a stage at the tender age of 17, when I was fresh and new, a blank slate ready for them to tattoo their names across my suddenly nubile body, even if they cared little for protecting the fragile heart that I tended to give away with it. By the time I was 23, I'd broken a few hearts of my own, mostly younger men who tired easily of the fast lane and all the trappings that came with being the plus one of someone much more notable. Ragmags were stained from remnants of my tears, and my ex's bloody fingers. Shameless embellishment replaced any missing pieces with rumor and conjecture, since zipped lips would never spill those secrets. I'd made a career of being cast into whatever role sold magazines at the time. The Lolita, the vamp, the tease, the crazy girl who would take her revenge out in a song whenever her heart was crushed underfoot. So many parts to play, and I played them all, from innocent ingenue to cold-hearted homewrecker. There were so many stories tossed around that no one ever knew the truth. Not really. Each song combined old lovers into a faintly familiar amalgam to indict the guilty while protecting the innocent. My pen might have been poisoned, but I was selective with my revenge. I learned early on that karma was a boomerang. When it came to public perception, in the end it didn't matter what had been done to me, as much as what I had allowed to be done. I was the one who bore the scars, as well as the indictments that came with them. It was a heavy burden, but I had learned over the years I had strong arms. He didn't have to know any of that. Not yet, I thought with a grin, before I employed a few of my most sensual moves to wreck his hormones the way he was doing a number on mine. He was with another girl and shamelessly looking to level up, which was a no-no in my book. Girls weren't interchangeable, for fuck's sake, and I only auditioned for leading roles, not silly side pieces. Leaving an impression, however, did little harm. It would boost my ego and get his motor revved. I hoped he'd give his girl the night of her dreams as a result. Rock her world, cowboy, I thought to myself with a salacious grin as I finished my dance, my sumptuous body doing what it did best. It was one of the few powers I was allowed to wield. Therefore, I planned on brandishing it well, as long as it was socially acceptable to do so. As a woman in her 30s, I knew more than anyone the clock was ticking, and my powers would change as the maiden gave way to the crone. When I turned to send him a parting glance, I realized he was already gone. I peered around the crowded dance floor, but he was nowhere to be found. He'd disappeared just like a mirage. Well, shit, I thought as I pursed my lips. I need a drink, I told no one in particular as I pressed through the crowd towards the bar. Various folks acknowledged me with an inaudible hey or hi as I passed, whether we had met previously or not. In a crowd such as this one, everyone knew everyone one way or another. I offered a coy smile that hinted at everything and promised nothing, like everyone else in the room. Finally, I broke through the masses to press up against the brass rails surrounding the bar made of black glass blocks sparkling under the strobe lights. The bartender was predictably handsome, with a winning smile as his eyes swept over me in obvious appreciation. "What's your pleasure?" "Champagne," I said with a slight smirk all my own. "Only the best for you, Miss Grace." He nodded as he reached for the $300 bottle with the shiny gold label which had been conveniently icing in a bucket. I took a sip and nodded my appreciation. Just as I reached for the crossbody clutch I wore, a hand came from behind me to throw $100 bill down for my tip. "The best, indeed," a deep velvety voice murmured. I turned right into the gaze of Theo Shepherd, whose eyes were even more devastating up close. They were so dark, deep, and rich. It was like teetering at the precipice of a veritable cave of wonders. I straightened my spine to fortify before nodding over his shoulder. "Save your swagger for your date, Mr. Shepherd. You'll get a lot further." I pulled out 100 of my own and slid it to the bartender. I was the platinum princess of pop. I was indebted to no one. Theo chuckled as he stepped closer. "Forgive me if I've overstepped." My sharpened blue stare traveled down his fit form, taking in the details of his tasteful designer suit tailored to hug that impressive body in ways that kinda made me jealous. He says as he steps closer. I narrated as he came dangerously close to a boundary. His laughter was full-throated. "So suspicious," he quipped. "It's like you heard of me." Of course I had. His notorious bachelor lifestyle made the tabloids almost as much as my lavish love life. It wasn't uncommon for us to share a cover together, though we had only just met. "So presumptuous," I shot back. "It's like you've heard of me." "I've heard a song or two," he admitted with that upturned smirk. "And I've seen a movie or two," I confessed. "I think the first one was when I was 5, I added with a devilish glint in my eyes. "Ouch!" he responded as he held his hand to his chest, feigning a mortal wound. It made me laugh despite myself. "Seriously, though, where's your date?" He glanced behind me, scanning the crowd. "I think she's fixin' her face." The Texan in me recognized the Kentucky in him with a slight chuckle. I moved my piece across the board despite my better judgment. He was fun. Why? Was there something wrong with it? Those eyes leveled on my face to do a thorough inspection. "One could say it wasn't yours." I scoffed. "One could say you're full of shit." He didn't move to touch me, but I felt his aura surround me. He was masterful. I had to give him that. Gotta shoot your shot when you get the opportunity, right? I leaned closer. "It's not your night, Mr. Shepherd, but I'm flattered." He nodded as he studied me. "Then how about some small talk to fill the time until my date returns?" The glint in his eye was too delicious to deny. I conceded with a slight nod. "If you insist," I said, with an exaggerated sigh, making him chuckle. "So, what brings you to Vegas?" I tried to suppress my smile. It didn't work. "It's my birthday." He gestured to the bartender who was quick to pour him a glass. Theo generously tipped him again before he turned back to me. Then a toast. To a new year, both universally and personally. I decided there was no harm in that. I held up my glass for a celebratory clink. We watched each other over the rims of our glasses as we sipped. "What brings you to Vegas?" I asked. "Going to hit a drive-through chapel and change your hound dog ways?" He laughed. "God forbid. There's something to be said for being persistently single. I offered a non-committal shrug. I didn't necessarily agree, but he didn't need to know that. The game allowed very little room for honesty. Wouldn't do much for my record sales. Don't tell me. Let me guess. You're still young enough to think the fairy tale can come true. I leaned closer. Isn't that what we sell? The fantasy of forever? His appreciative gaze traveled shamelessly across my exposed skin, so close and so tempting. He wanted to touch me, I could tell, but he held himself back like a trooper. Those eyes finally captured mine. Touché, he conceded. Fantasy is such a fun little sandbox. My eyes fell to his mouth. Damn, it was sexy. Smirk or no smirk? In fact, those full lips promised a lot of serious fun. It was dangerously titillating. I blamed my lingering spell of celibacy following the last famous hound dog actor who broke my heart. That chastity belt could chafe like a bitch sometimes, particularly when there was nothing more I would have liked than climb Theo's rock-hard body just like a tree. I steadied my breath as I slowly slid my eyes back up to meet his. The funnest, I agreed softly. Out of my peripheral, I spotted his date parting through the crowd. Maybe someday you'll be free to play in mine, I offered with a mock pout before I grabbed my glass and moved away from the bar. I may take you up on it, he informed my departing back. When I didn't answer, he asked, but will I live to regret it? I turned back to say, bet on it. I offered my own winning smirk before I spun and sashayed away. It was a perfect parting shot, meant to linger on his palate like a hot pepper seed. I didn't expect anything to come from it, and if it did, well, he'd been warned.